Welcome to the Vendetta Sports Media Daily Show. I'm James Herrick, joined by Garrett Burrows. How we doing?
Doing good, man. Doing good. How are you doing, man?
Not bad, not bad. Pretty good. NBA trade deadline kind of sucked, but
Tell me about it.
it was good. It was good for some people, bad for some others. But we'll get to that in a little bit. First things first, we got to talk Senior Bowl because you were at the Senior Bowl, which is very big week for you. So I guess just first off, tell us a little bit about the Senior Bowl experience and how that went.
Well, it was a miracle getting down to Mobile in the first place, to be honest. So the plan was, bear with me because I've got a long-winded story here.
Yep.
The plan was for myself and Mark, another writer at the website, he's mostly music, but he's trying to get into football and scouting and stuff like that. So he wanted to come with me. Told him to apply. He got in. Great. He lives in Midland, Texas, same city as Alex Chick, another writer here, my best friend. So I decided to fly into Midland. Mark and I were going to drive from Midland, Texas to Mobile, Alabama. That's a 14-hour drive. But we decided to drive so we could have a car in Mobile, so we're not just taking Ubers and shit. Because where our hotel was. So basically, here's Mobile, and then there's a river or a body of water that runs here, and then there's like Daphne, Alabama. There's like this big ass bridge. We were staying in Daphne, and to Uber to the stadium and back was like 40 minutes each way, so that's gonna be a lot of money in Ubers. And so we just decided to drive so we have a car. The day before we leave for Mobile, so this is on Saturday. We're gonna drive. We're gonna leave Sunday. We're gonna leave Sunday. We're gonna leave Monday. Fuck. We're gonna leave Monday. Practice start Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We're gonna leave Monday. Sunday night, we get weather alerts going through Dallas that there's an ice storm going through all of Texas.
I forgot about that.
So we're like, fuck. So we were like, we can go through the southern route, go through San Antonio and Houston, cut through like New Orleans and Baton Rouge. They have flood warnings all through Houston and through Baton Rouge. So we're just like, do we go through ice or do we go through flooding? And we decided at the last second to go north to try to go through the ice. I live in Colorado, so I know I'm equipped to drive in the snow and ice and bad conditions like that. The morning of, there's a town an hour or so outside of Dallas called Abilene. And Mark looks up, and they got no precipitation overnight in Abilene. So we're like, cool, we're chilling. Might not be in the ice, no big deal. So we're driving. We leave at like 4 o'clock in the morning, right? 14-hour drive. And it's pitch dark outside. We're driving, no big deal. I woke up from a nap, still pitch dark outside. And we're doing 75 on the interstate and hit a patch of black ice. And we start fishtailing doing 75 on the interstate.
Oh my god!
So Mark has never driven in this like the ice before, so he doesn't know what to do. Thank fucking God, he gets the wherewithal to like kind of steer into it a little bit, not ride the brakes too much, and we regain control. Him and I are like, holy shit to each other, right? And then we do the ice is so bad for an hour and a half stretch. We're doing like 35 on the interstate, along with every other car. So we lose all of this fucking time. We make the decision to fly out of Dallas because we're gonna drive through Dallas anyway. A family friend of ours lives in Dallas. We stopped there, see him for a little bit, and we booked flights out of Dallas into Pensacola, Florida, which is only a 40-minute drive to Mobile. And we drive through the city where our hotel is anyway. Well, it's like freezing rain in Dallas. The roads are icy as shit. It's starting to accumulate. I'm driving. I get to the airport. We're late leaving Dallas. We have a tight connection in Houston. We land in Houston as the plane is already boarding. Not only that, is we have to change concourses in Houston. And I don't know if anybody who watches this or is listening right now has been to the Houston Bush Airport, but it's fucking massive. So we land, I think, in E, and we have to go to the C concourse, and the plane's literally already boarding. It's like halfway through boarding. There's like 10 minutes left before they close the gate. So we're sprinting through the fucking airport to make the flight. We're like the third and fourth last person to board. We barely make it by the skin of our teeth. board the plane, get to Pensacola, get the rental car, drive to the hotel. Next morning, I wake up with strep.
Oh my god.
So I'm fucking sick as a fucking dog the entire week of the Senior Bowl. But I will say it was a blast.
That's good. That's good.
Mark and I had such a good time. I got to shake hands with a few folks, got to talk to some people. That was always
Mhm.
good. Um, and then learned a lot about some of the prospects coming out this year. So it took a miracle to get there, and we made a struggle when we were there, but we got there, and it was a really good time, and I can't wait to go next year.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool that you made it. But good lord,
It
man.
was one thing after another, James. You don't
Yeah.
understand.
That ice is no joke because I'm from Michigan and the ice up here, it gets bad and you kind of get used to it, but it's like it's still not fun.
But
Like,
dude, doing 75 when
yeah,
we start
that's
fishtailing, bro,
insane.
I genuinely thought we were gonna skid off on the side of the road because we were
Oh,
driving and it's pitch black outside. There's like 5 or 6 cars already on the sides of the roads we're driving, and they're like flipped over, they're spun out, waiting for tow trucks, and I'm like, well, this is gonna be us. Great, we're not going.
jeez. Shout out Mark though.
Yes, shout out
Keeping
Mark.
it in the road.
Shout out Mark for somehow keeping it in the road for sure.
Yeah, and also shout out Mark for completely unrelated reasons. I love his music stuff. He does good work with the music because I saw we got someone to do music, and I'm a big rap guy, so I didn't really know what we were getting. I read a couple of the blogs, and I was like, we got something here. He knows
He's
what he's talking about.
Yeah, dude, he when he gets onto it, he'll just hyper focus on that shit. Like we was doing the preps for the Grammy articles in Mobile, and
Hmm.
he was just like, dude, I think this person should win. This is why. But I can see this person could win. This is why. This album is so good. This album does this. This album does that. And I'm just like, he's a good ad. He's
Yeah,
a good
very
ad.
good, very good. He was tweeting about Kendrick, and I was like, I love this guy. Anyone who's a Kendrick fan, I've got no beef
That's
with them.
right.
So going back to the Senior Bowl, who were some of the rises that you like? Because obviously you get to watch in person and get a good sense of these prospects. Who were some of the risers that really stood out?
I think the biggest riser, and he only participated the first day of practice and didn't do anything else the rest of the week, is DeJuan Jones, the tackle from
Mhm.
Ohio State. He is a people eater. I think I tweeted
Massive.
something similar to that. Like I think I tweeted something to the effect of like it looks like DeJuan Jones ate someone for breakfast, and like that's his size, or he morphed bodies with another human to create one mega person. He is a monster. He's got good hands. He's got good feet. And he just, I mean, who's moving a guy who's 6'8", like 350, and he's got the largest wingspan ever recorded in Senior Bowl history?
Yeah, exactly.
His
Disgusting.
wingspan is like 7'6" or something like that. Something gross.
And his stock wasn't that high coming in. Like he's obviously was a big prospect, but people were looking at him more day two, late day two, and I think he
He, depending on
moving
how
up.
he measures at the combine and how he tested the combine, he could see himself in the first round,
Hmm.
genuinely, in a offensive tackle class that is fine. It's
Yep,
not
not
great.
special.
It's not special by any means. There's a couple of guys at the top, and then there's some mid round guys who could turn out to something. But I think that DeJuan Jones had such a good performance on his first day that he didn't need to do anything else the rest of the week. He didn't when he was not available for media breakfast on Wednesday, people were kind of just like maybe he's like, maybe overslept, maybe he's like sick or something. He sat the rest his team probably told him, "Hey, dude, you fucking crushed Tuesday
Yeah,
practice.
exactly.
Let's not run the risk of you getting injured." And I don't blame him.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. Especially when you still have the combine. Like, there's no reason to like.
And
You can
Ohio
only
State's
go
pro
so
day.
far. Yeah, you can only go so far at the Senior Bowl when you got the stuff going on later on. And like with this draft class too, like the defensive guys aren't anything special either. Like there's a handful of really good players, but this isn't like a deep defensive class. So it's like teams may be more apt to go offensive tackle early too.
This is definitely a depth draft at defense, I feel like. Trey
Hmm.
put out an article yesterday, day or day before yesterday, saying that like this draft class might not be great. And I tend for the most part to agree with him. I think
Hmm.
that your top 15 to 20 guys drafted in this draft class are probably going to be difference makers. And then your next 20 to 30 are probably starters. And then it's just guys who might work out and they might not. Like,
Yeah.
take for example, I think he won the best player for the week at the Senior Bowl this year was Ty J Spears for the running back from Tulane.
Hmm.
He crushed this
Great
week.
week.
He had a fantastic week. He's a day he's a late day two, probably a day three guy. He's probably more of a day three guy even after a great showing. But like again, you're throwing the darts to see
Yep.
who lands. I think Trey mentioned that he didn't love the receivers of the Senior Bowl this year, and going into it, I didn't either. But there were some guys who I think really stood out, especially I'm gonna butcher his name, Puka Nakua, I think from BYU. He only played the first day. I think he did get some sort of injury. He played
Hmm.
really well. I loved Michael Wilson from Stanford all
Yep.
week long. I think he had a fantastic Senior Bowl. I think Xavier Hutchinson from Iowa State definitely helped his draft stock. I think he had a stronger performance early on than he did later in the week. Um, but it's guys like that who are going to fall into that outside the top 50 players where it's just like we're going to draft you and maybe you'll turn out to be something, maybe you won't. It's the same thing with the defensive guys too. I think that Julius Brents had a good week. The defensive back from Kansas State who played really well against Quentin Johnson in the
Hmm.
Big 12 title game. There was guys like Riley Moss, who's Trey's a big fan of. He had a really good showing the last 2 days. Isaiah Land, who is a off-ball linebacker from Florida A&M, I think. He came in like 15 pounds heavier than he finished the season last year, which is huge for a guy like him.
Always a positive. Yeah.
And he picked up a sack in the Senior Bowl game. That's always big. That's something that scouts are going to look for. I'm probably missing a ton of guys as well, but I think that there is potential to find some nice guys later in the draft out of this Senior Bowl group for sure.
Yeah. I think that's why this year might be a good year to move down too. Cause like once you get to like that outside of the top five, it's probably the top four, but once you start to get really around that 10 spot, a lot of these guys aren't worth top 10 picks. There's only a handful of guys that you really want in the top 10. So good chances to trade down, get someone later in the first round, and maybe add a one or two more of those guys that you're talking about in the second or third day, rather than what you would have had if you would have just sat.
I think if you are picking five and below, because the top four in no particular order should be the consensus of Will Anderson, Jalen Carter, CJ Stroud, Bryce Young. Those should
Yep.
be your top four picks.
Hmm.
If you're sitting at five, who do you take? Like Seattle's sitting at five, those four guys are off the board. Who on earth do you take?
Yeah.
You
The I
you don't reach for a guy like Tyree Wilson from Texas Tech. You
see.
definitely don't take someone like Andre Carter.
Mhm. The prevailing thought, I think, is Wilson right now. That's what a lot of people are saying right now. I don't agree with it. I wouldn't want him at 5 either, but I think that's, like, right now. That's what people are saying,
And
who's
that's
gonna go
that's
there.
mad.
It's
Like he
not
like
not a
he's
good
got
pick.
tools, that's great. But like if you're picking the fifth overall pick in the NFL draft, I
Mhm.
want someone who's going to come in and make a difference right away.
Yeah. I
I
want
I
more
don't
than tools that I can
I
project.
like I can't afford to wait another 3 or 4 years for this guy to develop. Luckily, Seattle lucked their way into this pick because they absolutely fleeced Denver in the Russell Wilson trade
Mhm.
and they got gifted the fifth overall pick. So normally they wouldn't be in this situation. But man, I'd feel like shit if I was Seattle at five and those four guys are off the board because there's nobody worth
Yep.
taking at five. There's nobody. There's great players sitting behind those four. Joey Porter, Peter Skoronsky. There's I'm probably forgetting a name or two. Those are the two guys that jump off my head right away. But you don't take those guys at five.
Yeah, exactly.
So who do
This
they
is
take?
this was the point that I was making earlier a couple days ago, is that in my opinion, the guy that you're taking at 5 is not that much better than the guy that you would get at 18, 20. Just because like I feel like a lot of the guys in that range are very similar. Because it's like when you're looking at corners, you're going Joey Porter and Keither Ringo are looking like they're going to slide. But at the same time, you've got guys like Witherspoon and Gonzalez that are rising up a little bit. And it's like, I'm not like the talent difference between those guys that are going to go earlier and the guys who end up being the fourth corner off the board. It's not that big of a gap, in my opinion.
I don't think it's crazy for Seattle to potentially go cornerback at five and pair him with Tariq Woolen and just
Mhm.
rebuild the like a no fly zone in Seattle. Um, I couldn't see Devin Witherspoon going 5. I don't necessarily know that I'm 100% in on Witherspoon as being the top corner in the class. I would more comfortably take 2 guys for sure, and potentially even a third over Devin Witherspoon. Not to say that he's a bad talent or anything. Maybe he probably is deserving of a first round pick. I have not watched a lot of tape on him, but I have the confidence in some of these other guys that they can perform. But yeah, like you said, Seattle would be better suited to trade down to like 13, 14, 15, because the like you said, the talent that you're going to get at 5, very similar to what you're going to get in those mid round picks, and when they coming up again at 20.
Yeah, and like I'm a Lions fan, you know that obviously, but like we got 6 and 18, and it's like the talent that we're getting at 6, or I'm thinking we might grab at 6, is like not jumping off the board in comparison to what we're getting at 18. Like you can get Joey Porter at 18, and then at 6, it's like you take Tyree Wilson. It's like I'm happier with Joey Porter at 18, honestly.
I mean, Detroit's in a good spot, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I have turned into a Detroit Lions fan, dude, after this season. I picked them in the bold predictions at the start of the year that we did for them to be a playoff team, and they were a
Barely.
Seattle field goal away
Mm-hmm.
from being a playoff team. I am all in on this Detroit Lions team. They're in such a good spot, dude, because they should
Mm-hmm.
easily trade down from 6.
Yeah,
Someone's going to want to trade up in front of Vegas if a guy like Will Levis is still on the board, and they have a feeling that Las Vegas, pending they don't make a move at quarterback and they do get rid of Derek Carr, do you think they're going to take him at 7? Trade up in front of him to 6. I know Detroit's going to want to move down.
Yeah, exactly. Because Detroit needs defense bad and bad, like bad. So give me a pick, 2 picks. I don't even think they need a lot to like move down if you're Detroit. If you're willing to throw in 1 or 2 picks, like they don't even have to be that high. I'll gladly slide back 3, 4, 5 spots. And like I said earlier, the talent's not going to be that different. Especially you're taking defense at 6. You slide down, you get a quarterback or 2 quarterbacks off the board, a tackle or 2 tackles off the board. Like the talent pool, you're probably only missing out on 1 or 2 defenders, anyways. So,
Like a team like Carolina, and all Detroit would have to trade down from 6 to 9. That's perfect.
yeah.
Carolina trades up in front of Vegas. They take Levis. Carolina offers them 9, 39, and like a 2 next year. That's great.
Done.
That's fucking awesome.
Yep.
You're only trading down 3 spots, and you're not missing any talent, picking up picks.
Yeah, love it. And another guy that we were talking about, senior bowl guys earlier that looked good. The Wisconsin D tackle was another guy that you didn't mention that I do kind of like as well. I don't remember his name I think his last name is Benton. Can't remember it.
Benton.
Yeah, I couldn't remember his first name, but he looked good in a class where the interior D line isn't looking very good either. Because after Jalen Carter, that interior defensive line
it falls off.
Yeah,
there is a fall off for sure.
Because you've got Brees or Breesy or however you say his name. I've heard it pronounced 1,000 different ways, but like he didn't perform that well this year, and he's starting to slide down boards. I think I'd still rather take him than some of these other guys. But like for someone like Benton, who you come out and play well at the Senior Bowl in a class where you don't have much competition, played better than Kalijah Cansey, so he could be another riser too.
Yeah, I think that just like you said, in a class where it's not very strong after 1, basically, he has a real chance to make a name for himself. He is another guy who could go into the combine and just absolutely kill, and his draft stock's through the roof.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've seen mocks as high as Benton going in the 2nd round right now. Whereas going into the Senior Bowl, I don't think he was that high. I think he was definitely a late day 2, early day 3 guy. And I've seen him as high as like the mid 40s to early 50s or so. So yeah, good for him. And this kind of goes to show just how important the Senior Bowl is. Some of these guys are skipping out and they're not doing it. Guys like Stetson Bennett. I couldn't believe Stetson Bennett did not go. Same with Will Levis.
Crazy.
Even. Will Levis would have been head, shoulders, knees, and toes above everybody else at the quarterback position in Mobile.
Mm-hmm.
And he would have had a chance to really put on a show, and he didn't go.
Yeah, I think it's interesting for Levis kind of gets a little bit of leeway, I think, just because I don't know how much he's going to move in terms of stock. Like, I think he's going to be QB3, I have a hard time seeing him up or down.
Some people have him higher than CJ Stroud.
Yeah, those
Some
people are
people have him as
crazy.
QB2. I've seen him go as QB1 in draft in mocks before. That's
That's
crazy.
insane. I saw a mock draft where he traded up, where the Colts traded from 4 to 1 and took him, and I was like,
That's
that
bananas.
doesn't make any sense.
Trading up to get Will Levis
At that
is
point, you just sit at 4. You just sit at 4.
yes, because he's going to be there at 4.
That was the craziest I saw. But
That's
like
absurd.
someone will fall in love with the tools, but it's like for the most part, I think most guys are just going to keep him at 3. Bennett's bad though, because Bennett would have been like he's in a similar position as Max Duggan. And if you go out and play well, you're maybe he had a chance to leap Duggan. I don't really know how teams are looking at Duggan versus Bennett or in comparison to Hendon Hooker, who obviously couldn't play. But if you go and outperform Duggan, you could hop him on some draft boards. And that's the type of guy you're competing with.
Two things. One, I heard some pretty good stuff about Hendon Hooker this week or last week
Mhm.
rather, that he was just crushing interviews. So good
He
on
showed
him.
up. He showed
Yeah,
up.
good for him. And then two, I at this point Stetson Bennett's completely undraftable. I thought that going into the national title game. I thought that coming out of it, even before him declining the Senior Bowl. Max Duggan didn't look bad in
Mhm.
Mobile, to be honest. I don't know what to make of his draft stock. He's not going to be. He's a day 3 guy, Max
Mhm.
Duggan for sure. I maybe a team takes a chance on a 5th for him if the board's just not shaping up at all. I mean, I don't really know, to be honest. He did more good than harm for his draft stock in Mobile for sure. I have
Yep.
no idea what to make of Duggan's draft stock right now.
I think a lot of those quarterbacks in that range are in similar positions where it's like at least Duggan got the bump, but like Hendon Hooker, like I don't know what you make of Hendon Hooker because he's older, coming off the ACL, looked good, but like ultimately that was a really good offense. Like,
Yeah, that
is he
offense
gonna
was fantastic.
is he gonna have like the windows are just smaller in the pros? Can he hit the smaller windows? Like that's a serious question. But at the same time, like I think he's got better arm talent than like someone like Duggan, for example.
Yes, I would agree for sure.
Mhm.
I think had Hooker not gotten hurt, he definitely would. I would argue he's probably QB. He might be QB3 in front of Will Levis had he not gotten hurt. I mean, then
Mhm.
again, had he not gotten hurt, we have no idea where Tennessee would have finished in the standings this year. We have no clue.
Yeah.
I think that Hooker is he gonna? No, he's not gonna be doing anything in Indianapolis either, aside from interviewing. I would assume.
Probably not. But if he killed the interviews at the Senior Bowl, I imagine he's just like building on top of that with
I would
teams
assume.
that he
Yeah.
performed well with. And like I don't that's an interesting question where he would have been if he wouldn't have gotten hurt because it's like he's got his floor is so much higher than Will Levis's and Anthony Richardson. And I think there's some value to that, but at the same time, you want the tools and you want the what you're projecting a player to be. So it's kind of a tough conversation. Just we didn't really see it, so it's hard to say. But it's like I could see why he'd be QB3. At the same time, I could see why someone would fall in love with the arm of Will Levis.
The only thing that scares me about Hendon Hooker is that age, dude.
Hmm.
I could get a 21-year-old in this class or next year's class, or I'm taking a 25-year-old. The ACL doesn't terrify me as much as the number does.
I agree.
The number terrifies me. And this is coming as a Steelers fan who just drafted, I think, a 23 or 24-year-old quarterback last year in Kenny Pickett.
Hmm.
So I know about drafting older quarterbacks for
Yeah.
sure.
And if you want someone like Hooker who's 25, he's like you can't really afford to have him sit for a year or 2 years. And if you're taking a guy in the third round or wherever you take him, you don't really expect him to be a day one quarterback. So
Right.
it's like balancing getting that opportunity, developing. It's like if he develops and he's fully developed at 27, you say, and it's like then what do you get? I guess 6 good years out of a quarterback. Say he goes till 33, not bad, but even then we just ran through a lot of hypotheticals to get to that situation where it's kind of scary just to even start with.
I you're exactly right. You hit the nail on the head. You can't you if you're drafting a Hendon Hooker, you cannot sit him for a full year, a full 2 years to let him learn NFL offense
Mhm.
because you'd be rolling out because then what do you do for the next 2 years?
Yeah,
Like let's
exactly.
say Carolina, they have what 939 and like a bit like a mid 60 pick or something. Let's say they take Hendon Hooker in the 3rd round with the idea that he's going to be the fringe starter. So you're starting Sam Darnold next year, and then God only knows who you're starting the year after that just to get to Hooker. There's no way.
Yeah,
The fans would
exactly.
eat him alive for that.
Exactly.
You had like the idea has to be if you're drafting Hooker, when he heals up from the ACL, he's playing. No
Yeah.
questions asked.
I wonder if a team would take him as just a high value backup. You know what I mean? Because it's like he's someone I think with that would perform well in a backup role where by all accounts he seems like a great guy and a great player to have in the locker room where he'd be a professional as a backup. I wonder if that's value to a team where you're fine with him being your backup for your team and maybe 2 years down the line you get lucky, but you don't expect anything higher. At the same time, you're drafting him in the 3rd round. I think 3rd round, you can't be doing a backup in the 3rd round.
You
If you
can't.
can, if you can get him in the 4th or 5th, maybe it's a different conversation. But I don't think he's going to be on the board in the 4th or 5th.
Yeah, if he's sitting there in the 4th round and you're a team that has like an older quarterback or like a fringe starter or something like that, then sure, you can afford to take that
Hmm.
pick to see if he pans out or not. Like the Giants would be a perfect place for Hendon Hooker, I think.
Yep.
Let's say the Giants re-sign Daniel Jones 2 or 3 year deal, and then midway through year 2, you're like Daniel Jones isn't it. Let's throw this Hooker kid in here. See what he's got. He's got a year and a half of NFL experience. Needs 200%. Then you see what you have. But like,
Hmm.
yeah, exactly. You can't in the 3rd round. You cannot take a guy with the idea of him being the backup. He has
Yep.
to. He has to be the idea of you are the future guy. You just need to heal.
I agree with you. And similar position, I would be fine with the Lions doing it too. With Jared Goff as a starter, I'm higher on Goff than I am on Daniel Jones right now. But at the same time, I'm not gonna really be comfortable with Jared Goff sitting there
Right.
year in year out being the starter.
Yeah. Something has to change in Detroit, and I think Detroit's a perfect place for Hooker to sit as well because they have the coaching staff in place now that they're starting to turn out a high-powered offense.
Hmm.
He could slide right in and be completely comfortable in an offense like that and have him sit behind Goff for a full year, let Goff walk next free agency. Hooker starts in 25 or
Worth a
20,
shot.
yeah, 24.
Worth a shot. And then even worst case scenario, you can see what you got next year too, as well with quarterbacks in the draft. It's a much better draft for quarterbacks. And maybe you're in a position where you can draft one because I think a lot of teams, like whether it be Giants, Seahawks, Lions, a lot of fringe teams like that, you're not expecting to be picking one. But at the same time, things may go awry next year and you may find yourself in a better position than you expect.
Hooker is a great storyline to watch going into the combine and the NFL
Yep.
draft.
I agree. I agree. And then on the flip side of that, we talked about some winners earlier. Who are your losers or guys that maybe didn't live up to the expectation that you were hoping for?
I think the biggest loser as far as where he was currently projecting on draft boards is Andre Carter, the edge from Army. He nothing impressed me this week from
Mhm.
him. I keep saying this week, last week. You get what I'm saying though.
Yeah, exactly.
Nothing impressed me at all. When in one-on-ones, he wasn't getting a lot of wins. In team drills, he didn't seem to show up a whole lot, and he didn't seem to show a whole lot of energy. He doesn't strike me as a guy who is as a high motor. He's going to give 100% on every down kind of guy. He was getting beat a lot in the stretch drills at the start of the practices. Just kind of, he just looked like he was going through the motions. And that's not really a guy that I want. I've seen
Mhm.
Andre Carter mocked as high as like the top 10, top 12 in some mock drafts. I wouldn't touch him in the 1st round. I don't even know if I touch him in the 2nd round, to be honest.
Man.
He looks slim too. I forget what he weighed in as in Mobile, but compared to some of those other edge rushers, he looks slim. Like if you put Andre Carter next to Derek Hall, who also had a fantastic week, who I also love at the edge out of
Mhm.
Auburn, if you put those two guys together, it looks like one is an NFL player and one is a guy who's working on like the sidelines. Like Andre Carter looks so thin compared to a guy that is just beef stock, beef Wellington like Derek Hall.
Did we get any Carter reps against DeJuan Jones on the first day?
I think I have a tweet, actually. I think I might actually have a tweet of him going up against DeJuan Jones. I'm not lying.
There's just a massive size difference. That'd be great.
Dude, it's like 100 pounds probably, because DeJuan Jones is like 350. I don't even know if Andre Carter's 235 maybe.
Jesus.
Oh, I have to go find that. Oh, man.
Yeah, but like you said, coming in, Andre Carter was like that was a hot name. People were hoping he was going to have a good week. People were expecting him to, like, if he had a good week, that would have been great for him, considering the state of this defensive line class, especially on the edge rushers. But I don't think he moved up a single board.
He
Just
couldn't
happen.
have. There's no way he could have. Also, for clarification, he went up against a tackle from Michigan in the tweet that I posted where he got stuffed. It was
Ryan Hayes.
Yes, he got stuffed by Hayes, completely shut down. So,
and Hayes didn't have that great of a day either, because I was trying to check up on some of the Michigan guys. I saw him get beat a couple times. I mean, he wasn't one of the worst players there, but like he wasn't anything
dude,
special.
that center Oluwatimi, God, dude, I love him,
good.
man. He's good shit.
Mm-hmm.
He's good shit. And Ronnie Bell had a good week too, actually.
Really?
Ronnie Bell didn't look so bad. I think that he had moments where he probably could have performed a little bit better, but I think overall as a week, he definitely helped his draft stock for sure.
Interesting. Like, Ronnie Bell's an interesting player to me. I've watched a lot of Ronnie Bell just because I haven't missed a Michigan game, and I don't know when the last time I missed a Michigan game was. Probably the COVID year. That was terrible for them. But like, I feel like that kind of like is my whole like opinion of Ronnie Bell, where I've seen him make some great plays, some outstanding catches, and then we'll go 2 games and I'll be like, I haven't heard Ronnie Bell's name in forever. And he's not like explosive enough to be as inconsistent as he is, which is my biggest problem with him.
He had great hands from what I saw, which is, I think, probably a strength of his.
Mm-hmm.
Going back to some of the losers, Chase Brown looked fucking terrible. I mean that with every fiber of my being. He lost in pass protection. He had, I think on the entire week, I think he had 4 fumbles on the entire week. I think that's including 2 in one practice. Probably a half dozen to a dozen drops out of the backfield. I think he broke off 1 or 2 nice runs in a practice. I think maybe day 1 or day 2, he had 1 or 2 nice runs. But correct me if I'm wrong, I think Chase Brown was either top 5 or he led the nation in yards last year.
He had a lot. He
was a top rusher in college football in D1 last year, and he was a guy who could have really helped his draft stock in Mobile.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, this is just obviously my opinion. Some people may think otherwise. Some people might have thought he had a fucking great week. I don't know how that's possible.
I don't think anyone did. As crazy as some people are, I don't think there's anyone jumping on the table.
There's crazy people out there.
There are some
crazy folks out there. But I think that there's just no way Chase Brown is sitting on the couch right now going, I crushed it.
Yeah.
I crushed the Senior Bowl.
Part of me is kind of happy about it because I had to deal with Illinois fans all year talking about how he was better than Blake Corum. I'm not going to sit here and say Blake Corum is the best back in the nation, but he's better than Chase Brown.
I mean, shit. Off of what I saw this past week, I take Blake Corum 10 times over.
What round do you take Chase Brown?
6, maybe.
Yeah,
I could probably. I would rather have Tyjae Spears.
Yeah. Oh,
I would much rather have Tyjae Spears than Chase Brown. I'd rather have. Good. Sorry.
Good. I was just gonna say fumbling at the Senior Bowl is crazy.
Fumbles, drops, dude, it's awful. Evan Hull had a pretty decent week. He broke off. He played really well in the Senior Bowl game. I think he had 10 for 78.
That's
one of those is like a 40-yard run to open the entire game. So do with that as you will. But he looked really good all week. I'd rather take Evan Hull over Chase Brown. Eric Gray looked good this week. Eric Gray over Chase Brown. And I'm just going through guys who were just at the Senior Bowl. There's guys not even at the Senior Bowl who I would take over him. Guys like Sean Tucker from Syracuse. I love me some Sean Tucker. Jameer Gibbs is probably the second back off the board. Devin Arcane. I think the kid from A&M.
Yeah.
He's good stuff.
The speed in itself, give me that over anything Chase Brown can
Yeah,
give me.
he's a blur.
Yeah.
That dude moves.
Yeah. Yeah. Chase Brown had an awful week, and I mean, his stock just absolutely plummeted.
At which I feel bad because, like I said, he's a guy going into the week who could have really helped himself, and there's just no way he came out of this week feeling positive about it.
Yep. Especially leading rusher in the nation. You're one of them. Was there any Senior Bowl stuff that you wanted to touch on that we didn't get to yet before we move on to NBA trades?
The fucking fog. For anybody who lives in Mobile, Alabama, I'm so sorry you have to deal with a fucking fog. Apparently, as I learned, I went to go get a coffee on the off day, and I was kind of chatting with the barista behind the counter. She was like, "Oh, what are you here for?" Like, because I think I
Everybody's
had like
there
a
for the Senior
Colorado
Bowl.
hoodie on. She was just like, "Oh, you're probably not from here, are you?" And I was like, "I'm from Colorado." So what are you doing here? I'm like, I'm like the 14th person that told you I'm here at the Senior Bowl. And then she was like, "What do you think of the city?" And I'm like, Mobile's not bad, but how do you guys deal with this fog? And she goes, "Yeah, the winter season's fog season." And then she tells me it hasn't been as bad as years past. I'm like, "Ma'am, it's terrible out here." I picked up the car, and Mark and I were driving at like 11:30 at night. The visibility was like 200 feet. I couldn't see anything. And
Dude,
this
it's
isn't that
crazy
bad.
that fog's an issue. What like I didn't
Dude,
know that
I had
there
no
were
idea it
places
was
where
such
that
a
was a problem.
prevalent issue. I had no clue. I'm going to keep this in mind for next year when I go, just to be prepared for fog everywhere. Even in the
Fog
morning.
season.
There was
That's
one morning
insane.
we were driving to practice, and every bridge, there's tons of bridges in Mobile. Every bridge, before you get on it, if you're going over water, obviously bridges go anyway. Getting on the bridge, they have signs that light up that says fog ahead. And it was every fucking day we're driving to practice and the lights are going and sure as shit just fog. Bro, I
That's
couldn't believe
funny.
it. I was not prepared for all the fog I was about to see.
Side note, how is the Senior Bowl in Mobile every year? Like, is that something that I'm missing out on? That I'm just the only person who doesn't know why? But what makes Mobile so attractive for the Senior Bowl?
Oh, dude, I wrote an article about what the Senior Bowl is, and I was doing research into why it started, and now I just can't remember. It's been going on since like 1950, and I think it's been in or near Mobile every year. I think this is the second year that it's been on the South Alabama campus.
Gotcha. So they've just
Before, I
had
think
it
it
there.
was somewhere else in Mobile, but yeah, they've had it in Mobile, but this is the second year they moved it.
Gotcha. I was thinking, and I was like, maybe it's because it's in the heart of SEC country, but I was like, it's 2023. We have enough planes to get around, you know.
I honestly, I think it'd be coolish to have it in Tuscaloosa.
Ooh, that's a good call.
That's the heart of SEC country right there.
That's a good call. I don't
But
mind it.
obviously, if Alabama fades off, if that ever happens, like they're probably not going to have it there. They'll probably move it somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
I think it'd be cool though. I mean, don't get me wrong. The University of South Alabama campus, very nice campus. I like the
Really?
stadium. I think that the stadium was nice. It probably holds, I don't know, 5,000 or 6,000 people, something like that. They have a nice the press box is nice. They got a nice admissions building, stuff like that. It's nice. Don't get me wrong. No hate on them, obviously. But I think that it would draw more money. If Jim Nagy's listening, take my advice. Move it to a bigger city because you're selling tickets to the Senior Bowl or you're selling it as this big thing. Everybody's going to fucking come if it's in Tuscaloosa. You're going to fill probably 20, 25,000 people there. Think of all the merch you're going to sell off of it. I don't know.
Fix
Just me.
And fix the TV problems too. That help too.
Yeah, that's a really big fucking issue.
But
please, for Trey's sake, please just fix it.
All right, moving on to NBA trades. Obviously, the big one: Kevin Durant to the Suns. Wild times. What are we thinking?
As a fan of a perennial title contender in the Western Conference, I hate it. For Kevin Durant, I also don't really love it. I think that Phoenix made a very bold decision mortgaging the future on pairing Kevin Durant with an aging CP3 who is proven to absolutely crumble in the postseason.
Hmm.
I'm also interested to see how the pairing goes between Devin Booker and Kevin Durant. Like
That's
who's
interesting.
going to get the last shot?
Got to be KD. I
I mean,
mean,
it's got to be
it's
KD, but like D-Book is nice.
yeah.
He's going to want to get his looks as well. I think that
Hmm.
it'll be curious to see come like late in the season, jockeying for playoff seeding, how they start to really gel. Because I
Yep.
think that if they immediately click and they're firing on all cylinders, they're definitely a threat in the West for sure. But not saying that chemistry is everything, but it amounts for something.
It matters. It
It
matters.
matters. It matters a lot.
That's why
I
Golden State's so good perennial every year, just because that team has been running together for so long and they've kind of had this system down.
it yeah,
One of the
exactly.
reasons.
One of the reasons. It also helps that they have the greatest shooter in NBA history,
That also helps a lot.
one of the greatest shooting guards of all time as well in Clay, and just a defensive juggernaut and
Yeah,
Draymond. But
that
hey,
helps a lot.
but they've had some nice bench depth along the way as well. Like let's not
Hmm.
just put it all on those three guys for sure. And they also traded for Gary Payton today,
Yeah,
who was a
big
key part
day.
of the run
Big
last
day.
year.
Big, yeah, that was I got that notification on my phone. I was sitting in class and I'm that's a good move. Like I was surprised that they were willing to like make that move, especially considering he walked, but it's a good
They
move.
probably realized how valuable he is because he was valuable to that team.
Hmm.
They need all the help they can get because I think I looked at the standings earlier and they're 500,
Yeah, they're
so they're
not
not
great.
even guaranteed to make the playoffs right now.
And that was it. They didn't have to give up much because they just gave up Wiseman, who they didn't want Wiseman at this point in that relationship hasn't worked out, hasn't worked for Wiseman there. So they just take the picks that they got from that trade and send it over for Peyton. So
It was
in
like
terms of what they gave up, they didn't give up much.
it was like 4 second-round picks. Why?
5.
Why? God, 5, dude. I've never seen so many second-round picks traded.
Everywhere. It's
And dude,
crazy.
everyone's saying fuck them second-round picks, dude.
It's
Everyone's saying it. Who needs them?
I mean it's wild because second round picks aren't like overly valuable, obviously, but it's like they've become a piece where it's like you can move off a bad contract if you package a player in a second round pick. It's like you're kind of giving away quite a bit of flexibility if you just ship 5 of
A
them off.
ton of flexibility. Plus,
Where it's
if you hold on to those second-round picks, they can hit sometimes. I mean,
yep.
the back-to-back MVP of the league was a second-round pick. Not to
Hmm.
say that every second-round pick is going to pan out to be someone like Nikola
Yeah.
Jokic, but like it happens. So
Yep.
you just never know unless you just shoot on somebody.
The teams that can scout want the second round picks. The
That's
teams that
true.
are good in the draft want the second round picks.
That's exactly right.
But also with this, I'm interested with this KD move where I wonder what the future is going to look like for Chris Paul because, like, do they try and move off of Chris Paul after this year? I wouldn't, because there were rumors about them trying to move him last offseason too, which I think would have made sense. There are rumors about the Chris Paul and Russell Westbrook swap happening at points last offseason. In hindsight, like Russell Westbrook is bad, but his contract ends at the end of this year.
Well, apparently they also tried to ship out Chris Paul for Kyrie Irving as well. That
Really?
was I believe I read that on the internet somewhere. I mean, if I'm wrong, someone put it in the comments, call me out for it for sure, obviously. But I think I read somewhere that they were also trying to move him for Kyrie as well.
Hmm.
So I think I think they're aware that he probably isn't in their long term plans. And if you're Chris Paul, you almost want to be in the long term plans. And the only other
Yeah.
option would be to go to Los Angeles with the Lakers and play with LeBron. Like
Hmm.
if you're not playing for a team that is in the top 4 of your conference, or if you're not playing with LeBron James, what's the point?
Yeah, exactly. He'll get bought out too by like if he were to get shipped out to a team that's outside of that range, they're just going to buy him out. Like you
Exactly.
don't need Chris
They're
Paul.
just gonna buy him out. They're just trading him for the picks that come with it, and then Paul's free to go wherever he wants. Where he will probably end up going to. If I had to guess, he's gonna go to Los Angeles.
Yep.
If Paul's moved this offseason, it's to LA. And if he moves to a team and they buy him out, he's going to the Lakers.
Yep.
He's gonna play with LeBron one way or another.
Yeah, and I think like from the KD standpoint, I wonder how much like say he had in going to Phoenix, and if it was like how much does he want to play with Chris Paul? Like if they move off Chris Paul, is KD going to be upset? Like I doubt it, but it's
That
like
is a good question. I would like to think that he probably had a superstar of the caliber of Kevin Durant. The ownership probably went to him. They were just like, "Hey, you know this isn't working. We know this isn't working. We're going to go in a different direction. Give us some teams you'd like to be moved to." I'd like to
mhm,
think that's probably how it went. And
yeah.
then they probably called those teams and were like, "Hey, you interested in Kevin?" Some teams may have said yes, some teams may have said no. He might have wanted to go to Phoenix. I like you said, I'm also interested to see how the relationship is with Chris Paul in the future. If they decide to move off of him, I mean, you probably can't be that bummed because he is an aging point guard.
Yeah, and you still have Booker and Aiton there. I mean, people don't love Aiton, but it's not like that team is trash. You
People
know, you
do
still
hate
have solid
Aiton.
players. People hate him a lot. Like I
People
don't.
hate that dude.
It's like I don't like. I mean, he's not like a terrible player. If you're an NBA player and you have DeAndre Ayton on your team, you're probably not like kicking yourself over it. But
I couldn't imagine you were, but he was picked number 1 overall, wasn't he?
yeah, that's why people don't like him. I'm
That's
pretty sure
that's probably it.
because he didn't really pan out to be a number 1 overall pick. And if you get taken one and you're not a perennial All Star, people are gonna hate you. That's just
Well,
kind
I
of how
mean,
fans work.
look at Andrew Wiggins.
Yeah.
He was a really I don't think is he one? No, he was 4 maybe. He was a top pick
Yeah.
regardless.
And he was in that trade where he was in some sort of Kevin Love deal too. Because I don't remember how that all went down, but that was an interesting situation, and there were a lot of moving parts on
But
his
he was
draft
a
day.
guy who was drafted really high and
Mhm.
didn't totally live up to the expectations at first, and then he got time to develop, and then we really saw him in Golden State really stepping into, okay, Andrew Wiggins is kind of nice. You got to let him marinate a
He
little.
played very well in the finals.
Yes, he played
Yep,
very
he
well in the
played very well.
finals. You got to let these guys
Mhm.
marinate, James. Are
I
you telling me you're gonna put some marinade on a steak for like 10 minutes and throw it on the grill? It's not gonna taste like nothing. You let that steak marinate.
Yep,
You let
yep.
it sit for like 8 hours. You got the glaze on it or whatever, and then bang on the grill. You're like,
You don't
it
leave it
tastes like
out
what you want.
you don't leave it out too long because if you do, you end up with Ben Simmons. You gotta find the you
That is
gotta find
true.
the
You can't, dude. You could end up with Ben Simmons, and nobody wants Ben Simmons.
Dude, his over today, I was scrolling through lines, his over was set at 7.5, and I was like, 7.5 for Ben Simmons. So I was like looking at the game log. He's gone over 7.5 twice this year. That's insane.
That's
That's terrible.
brutal.
That's
Ben
terrible.
Simmons is so bad.
I feel bad for him at this point,
He
honestly,
should have
but
went to an adult school. Adult meaning like not LSU.
somewhere
Like
with the basketball program would
somewhere
have
with
been
a
beneficial.
basketball program. Like go to Kentucky or Kansas, Duke, UNC. Like go to one of these like a powerhouse with a
Yep.
great coach who can teach you basketball. Not LSU. What was he
Yeah.
thinking, dude?
Yeah. I hope they paid him. I really hope they paid him.
They
Like
had to have.
I
He had to have gotten a bag from LSU.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine if I were a top player in the nation and I was had an offer from any school I wanted to go to. I would I wouldn't be like I want LSU.
That's the one. I'm putting on the
May-
cap for LSU.
Maybe he thought he was getting a football scholarship. Who knows? Who
Shit,
knows?
maybe. Can I go on a side tangent really
Yeah,
quick?
let's go. Let's go.
I fucking hate these stupid ass videos of the kids putting on the hats for fucking signing day. I fucking hate it. Because they'll have the 4 or 5 hats sitting out, and mom's already got the t-shirt on, right? But she's got a zipped up jacket, and like you can't see the colors because it's zipped up to her neck. And he'll put on the one hat, and then he'll take it off.
Yeah, yeah.
I got this one. I'll throw it away. And then he puts on the Florida State hat, and everyone stops doing the thing, and mom pulls down the jacket. It's so fucking corny, bro.
It is. It is. And it was much cooler when you didn't know where the players were going. When you didn't know where the players were going, there was an element of surprise. Now you can just type in 24/7 and
they,
look at the
they
player's
fucking
crystal
spoil it.
ball.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this player's crystal ball to Auburn, and then he picks the hat for Auburn. Like, no shit. We
Yeah,
already fucking
exactly.
knew that.
Exactly. It really takes a spectacle out of it and makes it even more cornier. It's like,
Dude,
what are we doing?
I hate that so much. It drives me up a wall.
Yeah. And recruiting right now, just in general, like even outside of hats, it's a mess right now. Just whether
Oh,
it
with all
be
the
like,
NIL deals and stuff.
yeah, like I'm glad they had the NIL like in order, but there's no like structure to it. And you have guys like Jaden Rashada was apparently supposed to get 13 million, and then they didn't have his money. And then they're like, well, I'm not going to go here since you lied to me, basically. I
And he
also don't know
split the Arizona State.
I don't know all the details on that, but that's like the prevailing thought that what people have been saying. I don't
Right.
really have an inside knowledge of that, but you got Peyton Bowen commits, decommits, or flips again, and it's like, what are we doing? If it's not signed, he's not really
Yeah,
your
nothing's
commit.
official till you see him in your jersey suiting up for game day.
That's true. Xavier Worthy was a Michigan signee and then transfers before his freshman year even starts.
Dude, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I had to say that tangent real quick because
I'm with you.
I made some sort of statement, I guess, and it just popped in my mind. And I was like, I got to get this out now. We got to let the people know that fucking National Signing Day is a joke.
It's stupid. And now they've got it cut into two, but yeah,
Yeah, there's like a late signing day too now, isn't there?
well, they always had the one in February,
Right.
and then they added the one in December. So now the actual signing day barely nobody signs pretty much. And I don't understand the point of having signing day in December, and you've got half the the bowl games aren't done. Like you're a college football playoff team, it's the middle of your season.
Right.
Like I guess it doesn't affect teams too much, but it just doesn't really make much sense.
Oh, dude, it just drives me up a wall.
I'm with you. I'm with
so
you.
Stupid. Just like put out the tweet of you photoshopped in the jersey.
So
I'm
literally
going to, Mississippi State and I've got the Bulldogs gear on. Not like I'm picking all these stupid hats and shit. Because what do they do? What do they do with the hats afterwards? That's my question. Does he keep all the hats? What do you do? Do you pass them out to the fans in the stands? Do you walk around with a Florida hat and go, do we have any Gator fans? I hope this fits. And you just hand him it. Like, I just don't understand. Well, I have so many questions that just go unanswered about this, and it makes no sense. Please stop it.
And 90% of the time, the connection is god awful. You've got 400. You're watching a 480 HP through an Instagram live of a dude.
It's like so bad. Please just stop it. Just put an end to all of it, please. That's all I ask.
I'm with you. And then so back to NBA trades.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. It's over. Back to our regularly scheduled programming. My bad.
No, I'm down. But what was a trade that stood out to you? We had a lot today. What was something that stood out to you that you liked or you didn't like?
All of the moves the Lakers did today.
Mm-hmm. Great.
The Lakers, they absolutely crushed today. Rob Pelinka did such a good job putting together a young roster too. It's not even like they went out and got like old guys. Mm-hmm. Like even dating back to the Hoochie Mama trade from a couple of weeks ago, he's 25. They traded for like a 23-year-old, pair of 24, 25-year-olds as well. They're getting young guys who can run around LeBron, and that's basically what he needs. Mm-hmm. He needs guys who can run the floor, and he's guys who can spot up for three.
Yep.
That is the person to play with LeBron. And so they did a great job pairing all of these guys together with LeBron because they know he ain't got a lot of championship years left.
Yep. Lots of depth too.
Tons of depth.
Depth was what was killing that team, and now they've got a level of it. And they didn't I didn't see a single trade, and I was never like, oh, they overpaid here. Right. It was like 3 firsts for Hachimura, good deal. You only have to give up 1 when you were getting off of Russ's contract. They didn't really give up much for Mo Bamba. It was Patrick Beverley, and I don't know if they threw in a pick there, but it's like they're adding good players and they're managing assets well. So I agree. Great trade for the Lakers. Got a lot of depth. Didn't really give up much. I don't know what else you want from them at this point with they didn't have much flexibility to begin with because they've made all the trades in the past.
Yeah, they came into the day with like next to no future flexibility, and now they have a ton of future flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
They have a ton of it, and plus they moved guys out to see what they have in these young guys. Like they traded away Thomas Bryant to Denver, love the trade. And they have Jared Vanderbilt, who is a nice young player, and they have his name begins with a W, last name begins with a W. Wesson, maybe. He's a big for the Lakers, I believe. But he seems to be promising as well. They probably want to see what they have in him as well.
Mm-hmm.
So they're it almost in a way addition by subtraction as well, because you're going to give these younger guys run who you're not really sure what they have right now,
Mm-hmm.
and give them all time to melt before the playoff run, because this is a team that, I mean, if they get in,
They could get hot.
it's hard to bet against LeBron James. Say
Mm-hmm.
what you will about him, have your opinions, feel the way you feel. It's hard to bet against LeBron James, and if AD is healthy, that's the biggest kicker in all of this. LeBron's going to show up. LeBron's going to be there. The biggest question mark surrounding this Lakers team right now and going forward the rest of the season is the health of Anthony Davis.
Yep, and the morale. That video of him when LeBron scores his point to break the record, and he's like the only person in the arena sitting down. I'm like, man, what is going on here?
Show a little excitement, but
that's
you're
crazy.
never going to see. You might never see that again in your lifetime.
History.
Someone break the NBA record.
He couldn't see it. He was watching through the jumbotron. There was dudes standing in front of him. There's dudes standing in front of him. It's crazy.
Because LeBron's going to end up with over 40K, 41K probably, 42K maybe even.
Mm-hmm.
No one in our lifetime might even catch that.
Yeah,
and we're young guys. No
Mm-hmm.
one in our lifetime might catch that number.
Yeah, it's if they do, it'd be
they'd have to be the third best player ever, I guess, or the second best player if they pass LeBron, I suppose.
Exactly, I'm with you. And then obviously a trade that you didn't like as much, Bones Highland getting shipped off. Hurt your good for the Clippers, but Denver, number one team in the West, is kind of getting a kick here.
I get the move off of Bones Highland in the sense that he was creating a rift on the team because he was complaining to teammates and to Coach Malone about his playing time. He was even having his family go after Michael Malone and the coaching staff on Twitter, like hounding them, harassing them, basically, like constantly tweeting at them, play Bones more, stuff like that. So, like, I get trading him for, like, morale purposes, try to get back a little something, but you don't even get a player back for Bones Highland, who made the all-rookie team last year, who is a part of the rookie, sophomore, whatever, last year and this year during All-Star Weekend, if you care about that kind of thing. And he could get you 12, 13 points a game off the bench. That's valuable in this league for a team who's trying to make a playoff push. And you get 2 second-round picks, and it's not even like a second-round pick this year. It's the first one's not till 24.
That's insane. And you're trading them in the West too. It's not like you're shipping them off
West, James.
It's not like you're shipping him off to Orlando. He's in the West.
And you're shipping him to a team that is trying to win a title that you might face in the playoffs. Yeah. God, I could just fucking see it now, James. It's going to be the conference semifinals. And it's going to be like game 2. Denver's up 1-0 on the series. They're playing the Clippers. And Bones goes off for like 29 and clutch steals the game from the Nuggets late because he goes scorched earth on everybody. And I got to hear about it.
Yeah.
It's stuff like that. Like this is the reason why you don't trade players in division in the NFL, or you hardly ever see it. You don't want to help out teams in your division. Divisions don't matter as much in the NBA, but you don't want to help out a team that is trying to make a playoff push. You just don't do it.
Especially if you're the number one team in the West. It's like
especially the second best record in the league.
If
you're shipping out a guy for a bag of chips, basically.
Yeah, if the Clippers are making moves to win, that means they're trying to catch you if you're the number one seed in the West. It's not a hard concept at all, but here we are.
But what do I know? What do we know? What
Hmm.
do we know? He should have went for a lot more than. Excuse me. He should have went for more than 2 seconds.
Yep.
I
Player at
think
least.
in my I would have loved to have gotten a protected first and like a young bench player, someone who might have a little bit of potential. He just sits at the end of the bench. I don't
Hmm.
care. Probably doesn't see any play time in the playoffs. That's fine.
Yeah.
2 second-round picks is I saw the notification because I have tweet alerts on turned on like notifications for certain people. And like on NBA draft day, I've got Woj and Shams. On like NFL free agency, I've got like Schefter and Pelissaro and Rappaport and
Hmm.
stuff like that. I'll turn those guys on. I
Yeah.
saw Bones Island and Trade, and I was at work and I was on my computer at my desk and I saw it and I'm like, ooh, I got all excited and I looked and I'm just like, to the Clippers, interesting. And I'm going through the roster like, who could they send for Bones? And then I saw the trade and it was 2 seconds. And I'm like, oh, that's just not great at
Yeah.
all.
And I'm with you where it's like you're not getting anything for like, especially, okay, when 2 second round picks today was nothing. We saw trades with 5 getting moved where it's like the market for second round picks today, that's almost nothing. That's less than the Lakers gave up for Hachimura. It's like that's practically for free.
You're
Practically
just
for
like
free.
giving the player away. And that's what's so frustrating about it.
It's insane. And then to flip it over, my Pistons today made a move that I was not a fan of. We shipped Sadiq to Atlanta, 3-team deal. We end up with James Wiseman, and I've seen some people that like this trade because you put James Wiseman in Detroit and you let him, you give him some minutes and see what you have there. Where it's like, why do we have to keep doing this? Why does this have to be? Um, why do we have to do this little song and dance where we already have Jalen Duren and now we've got to take on this project? We did it with Marvin Bagley, and it's like at best we now have 2 centers who can't shoot and can't space the floor. Are we going to play them at the same time? And we lose Sadiq Bey, who probably don't want to pay, but has at least a decent future.
It Detroit just seems to be like bringing in all the young guys, just trying to see who
Yep.
works. Which like if you're not going to compete, which Detroit isn't right now, you might as well just see what you have. I
Yeah.
mean, like you said, if you know you're not going to pay Sadiq Bey, you try to move him. Wiseman's a nice piece to try to get back. If he develops into all he was supposed to be, then great. If not, he's he's movable.
Yeah.
Is he still on a rookie contract or did he resign already?
He's got 2 left on his rookie this year and next year.
There you go. You just don't resign him then.
Yeah.
You
It's a good
still
point.
you don't decline his restricted free agency. That way, if someone gives him a mid-level offer but you like it, you just match, no big deal.
Hmm.
But if he turns out over the next season and a half to turn into like a pretty decent player, turn into a building block, you have that. But that does bring up a good point. What do you do with him and Jalen?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think you can play them at the same time, which means
No.
one has to ride the bench, and that's going to crush their morale.
And Jalen's been good too. If Jalen was having a bad year and you were like, this hasn't really worked out, it's like he's been good. He's doing his job. He's getting bored, scoring in the paint, blocking shots. It's what you drafted him to do. That's what Wiseman can do. And Duran's what, 19?
Yeah, he's so young.
He's so young. So I guess I like the trade for the reasons that you mentioned, where he's young, you see what you have, lots of flexibility in the future. The only reason I didn't like it was because you're pairing Duran and Wiseman together. One of them's got to come off the bench. You can't really play both of them at the same time. If you do, you have no spacing. That was my issue with it, but I do see the appeal.
But like you said, it doesn't help that neither guy can shoot.
Yep.
It'd be different if like Jalen could shoot and Wiseman can't, because then you can kind of run them at the same time
Hmm.
and just have Jalen be this massive four,
Yeah.
right? But if neither guy can roll out into the corner and shoot those threes, it unless they have the idea of moving Jalen, which would make zero sense,
No
obviously,
sense. They wanted him badly. They traded back into the first round to get him.
to get him. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the pairing should be interesting, but I think that, I mean, they've got time. The team's young.
Yep, that's true. That's
So,
true.
and it's all about doing what you can to pair with Cade Cunningham.
Yep, and crossing your fingers and hoping that you get Wembanyama.
Hoping.
Hoping.
That's a nasty team.
Yeah.
Everybody's hoping to land Wemby.
Yeah. Feed me, Cade, Jaden, Wemby, and Duran playing at the same time. I like that.
I mean, that's a tall fucking team, though.
That
Oh my
is.
god. Nobody's out rebounding the Pistons. Nobody. If the Pistons lose the rebound battle on the night, something went wrong.
Yeah, exactly. We had some players out. That's what that means.
Yeah, everybody must have been fucking missing.
Yeah. All right. So we're running at an hour 5 here. So we can go ahead and wrap it up unless you had any NBA stuff that you wanted to throw in before we close it out.
Who do you think makes it farther in the playoffs? The Denver Nuggets or the Boston Celtics?
If you force me to pick, assuming Browns,
assuming all health, everyone is completely healthy, and everyone is playing as they have been.
I'm gonna go the Celtics because it's less about teams and talent. Honestly, it's more about the Nuggets are just gonna run. They're just gonna play tougher teams each series. Like that's my reasoning. Like you're gonna run into tough teams in the West. If somebody gets hot, like that's like the East is what 4 teams strong at the top, and I don't see the Celtics having a lot of problems in the East until they run into a Milwaukee or maybe a hot Cleveland. Like I don't think they have a lot of issues.
Breaking heart, James.
I like the Nuggets. I like the Nuggets. I do. But if you're forcing me to pick, I'm picking the Celtics because the East is weaker. That's my reasoning.
That's a justifiable response. That is completely fair.
It's not that I don't like the Nuggets. I think the Nuggets are a great team. I love Jokic. I think he's better than Embiid, but
apparently we're in the minority in thinking that the back-to-back MVP is somehow not better than Joel Embiid. I can never wrap my head around it.
And that's not a diss on Embiid. It's not a diss on Embiid.
No, not a diss on him at all.
Yeah, he said he's just not as good as Jokic.
Not as good as the best player in the world, Nikola Jokic.
Exactly. I'll be with you on that.
I think it's my personal fandom that God, could you imagine a Denver Boston finals?
Ooh.
Oh my God. Trey and I would have to be on a watch party every single night for those games. We'd have to be.
Have to.
I almost hope that happens.
That would be electric.
It's such a fun time to be a Nuggets fan because I've been a Nuggets fan as almost as long as I can remember.
And there's been some bad years.
There have been some bad years, and then there were a number of great years, and then there were bad years again.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as they fired George Karl, there was like a 5-year lull of like, they might move the team. I was genuinely convinced that they might move the team because the Kroenkes own the Nuggets, who are the same Kroenkes who own the Rams, who took the Rams out of St. Louis.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad they didn't.
I'm glad they didn't also.
Yeah.
But I could have seen a situation where they just relocated to like Seattle or something and gave us back the Sonics, which would have been cool to be a Sonics fan, I guess. But I can't go see Sonics games.
Yeah.
Right.
You also need a team in Colorado.
You have to.
You have to.
You have to have teams in Colorado because, like, especially good teams. Luckily, Colorado's got 2 really good teams. They've got the Nuggets. They've got the Avs. The poor Colorado Rockies will forever be bad. Yeah. That team will never be good. And then you got the Broncos, who are just in a shamble. They're in shambles right now, and their quarterback might go to jail for fraud. So we'll see what happens with that. Have you not heard that?
Oh, no.
Am I breaking news?
I'm breaking news. You're breaking news.
All right. So the Russell Wilson Foundation has been donating like millions and millions of dollars every single year. He's won a Walter Payton Man of the Year award for his foundation. And then in a, I think it's a USA Today report that recently came out. I think it was 2 or 3 years ago. They were only donating 23 cents on the dollar for everything that they collected for donations to charity, where they touted that they donated like 2.6 million in charity. 23 cents on the dollar went to charity, and the rest
That's
of the
bad.
money went to paying staff um for the charity group.
And that's what they always say is that they're paying the staff. Come to find out, staff is family and friends, basically.
And
That's
that's
how
what's
it always
coming out.
goes.
It's like people on Russell Wilson's team who aren't on his team but work for him. And
Oh,
that's exactly what's going on. So they might not even have a
you know
quarterback
what?
come September.
I'm not that surprised because Russell Wilson seems like the definition of a guy who says he's good, but he's playing a character.
He's a cornball.
He's not actually a good guy. He's pretending to be.
He is a bona fide cornball. But hey,
What if
he landed Sierra.
that's a good point? What if we find out that Russell Wilson's the next John Jones, where he's not actually a good guy like he says he is? He's not actually a good guy. He's just
Don't do
playing the
that.
character.
Don't do that.
I'm just throwing it out there. Just throwing it out there.
But John Jones is arguably the greatest of all time. And we can't say that about Russ. Which makes it
That's a
worse
good
for
point.
John. It makes it worse that
It
John,
does.
if he would have just
It
been
does.
clean, would have been the undoubted king, greatest of all time.
Mhm.
And then
Hey,
he was, doing coke and sleeping with hookers and like partying before fights, and but that goes to show he was doing coke the entire week leading up to DC and then smashed DC.
that's
Like,
pretty
imagine
impressive.
if he was just clean.
It's pretty
God.
impressive. If I will say, I'm not a big fan of John Jones, but if he wins and wins the heavyweight belt, I have a very hard time continuing my opinion that George St. Pierre is the best fighter of all time.
I also have the opinion that George St. Pierre is the best of all time. Although I will say it's very obvious he lost that Johnny Hendricks fight.
Yep, and you can both can be true at the same time.
Both can be true. Both
Mhm.
can be true. That he lost against Johnny Hendricks, but it's the greatest of all time. But yes,
Mhm.
I will agree with you. If John wins the heavyweight title, it's tough.
It's a
It's
wrap.
tough
Yeah,
to not give him that claim.
because he's got the longevity, and he's got he's got the longevity, and he's got the two belts. So
And
it's tough.
especially if he defends it at heavyweight.
If he beats Stipe,
If he beats dude, I was just thinking that if he beats Stipe, it's game over.
even if Stipe is out of his prime, that's one hell of a name on the resume.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Even if he loses against Gon, but somehow beats Stipe in another fight, then I think it's him still because he defeated the greatest heavyweight ever.
I'm with you. And yeah, we're up to. We went on a nice little MMA tangent. We had to get it in there at some point. But like I said earlier, unless you got anything else,
That's it.
I'm
I've
good
got
to
all my
wrap.
rants out of my system. We're good.
All right, sounds good. Thank you to everyone who took the time with us tonight, going over some NBA trades and going over the Senior Bowl. It was a lot of fun.
It was a good time. We'll have to do this again.
Of course.